In this lecture, we will briefly discuss enabling support for output buffers. PHP is a modular language. This sets it apart from a language like JavaScript. We can enable or disable features from the language. Output buffering is a feature that can be disabled. A majority of host providers will enable this feature. Output buffering is considered part of the core. However, you may encounter a hosting provider that disables this feature. If that's the case, you should message them to enable this feature. Alternatively, you may be able to enable this feature yourself. There are different solutions for enabling this feature. However, the best solution is to modify PHP's configuration files. Unfortunately, modifying the configuration files is not always guaranteed to work. Ultimately, host providers have the power to disable a feature altogether. Regardless, let's learn how to enable or disable output buffering. One day, you may need this information. Open the local application. From this program, let's inspect the folders and files. Throughout this course, we've been working inside the app directory. This folder contains the WordPress installation. We are going to shift our focus to the configuration/PHP directory. Inside these folders, the configuration files for PHP can be found. PHP configuration files have the ini extension. There are a couple of configuration files inside this directory. However, most PHP installations will have one file called php.ini. Let's open this file in our editors. ini files are similar to JSON files. They are files that can contain configuration settings. Let's quickly review the syntax. Settings are added as key value pairs. On each line, we have the setting name. The name is followed by an equal sign symbol and the value itself. Some lines may begin with a semicolon character. This character indicates a comment. You can write whatever you want after this character. PHP has hundreds of settings. We can fine-tune a PHP site. In most cases, the default configuration can be left alone. Inside this file, let's search for a setting called output buffering. If this setting can't be found, you may add it in manually. Local should have this setting available within this file. As you can see, the setting has been enabled. There are three possible values for this setting. The option can be set to on. As you type this word, the word must be capitalized. Do not use lowercase letters. By setting this option to on, output buffering will be enabled. To turn a setting off, this option can be set to off. Once again, the word must be capitalized. The last type of value can be a number. As a reminder, buffers are a storage mechanism for output. By default, users will be able to store limitless amounts of data. This behavior can hog resources on a server. You can limit the storage taken by a buffer by setting a size in bytes. Local recommends setting this option to 4096. Overall, enabling options is simple. If this doesn't work, chances are your host provider has permanently disabled output buffering. Typically, this shouldn't be the case. Output buffering doesn't cause many problems. I highly recommend searching for hosts that offer output buffering. We are going to leave this value to its default state. In the resource section of this lecture, I provide a link to the PHP documentation for the configuration file. I highly recommend giving this page a read. Messing around with the configuration file is not something you'll do often, but it's a good skill to have. Editing this file can be easy. If you edit the configuration file, your server may need to be restarted. Let's move on to the next topic.